How's it going, everybody? I'm Jakejames Lugo, and welcome to the channel. Now today, I got my CD Projekt Red going on over here, as you guys could tell, but the main reason being is because today, we're talking about The Witcher 3. Now as a heads up, I might be spoiling some stuff about this game in this review, because there is so much to talk about in relation to The Witcher 3. There is just so much to unpack. So without further ado, let's just dive right into this, because man, there is really a lot to talk about. While it doesn't really need an introduction, The Witcher 3 is the third in the saga of role-playing games from CD Projekt Red. The games are on multiple consoles and are based on the Witcher series of novels written by Andrzej Sapkowski. I really hope I said that right. Anyway, the games take place after the events of the novels and within a fantasy-filled world with monsters and magic. The story is centered around Geralt of Rivia, a monster hunter known as a Witcher. This is the equivalent of a mutated human being who has undergone painful trials in gaining superhuman abilities to fight monsters. Though I would also compare Geralt to some sort of fantasy detective in some ways. It's a lot more complicated than that, but you get the idea. He takes on contracts from helpless citizens in need, crosses swords with bandits and corrupt warlords, slays beasts that roam the land, and still has the occasional moment to hit up the local tavern. Feels like the ideal fantasy life for some people. Geralt's story in The Witcher 3 picks up shortly after the events of the previous game as he searches for his adopted daughter, Ciri. Ciri is a young woman with innate magical abilities that make her super powerful. She is being pursued by a group known as the Wild Hunt. These guys are bad news and come from a parallel dimension seeking conquest wherever they go. They want to use Ciri in a plot to take over the entire kingdom on the continent, which would destroy her and cause all sorts of problems. In an attempt to keep this from happening, Ciri went into hiding for a long time, only to reappear suddenly and provoke Geralt into action to find her. Throughout his journey, Geralt comes across a ton of different characters from both the Witcher books and the previous games, including his fated lover the sorceress Yennefer, his old Witcher mentor Vesemir, Dandelion the Bard, the sorceress and old flame Triss Merigold, and so many others. I'm only scratching the surface here of an incredibly deep and complex story, but I could definitely tell you that this world and its characters are a lot more captivating than you realize. The entire cast of the game is absolutely fantastic and filled with so many individual side stories and offhand tales. The universe has so much going on because of the many inspirations CD Projekt Red has to draw from in the Witcher novels. Everything is put together in such a masterful way, you'll be hard-pressed to find any other RPG as narratively concise or as deep as this one.
Pay attention now. You'll tell the truth. Want to know why?
I won't lie. Honest.
Took me a long time to find you. Wasn't an easy road to travel. I'm angry and tired. Had to kill a lot of people along the way. Some of them tried to cheat me. Some tried to lie. I didn't like it one bit. I feel like one more lie'd be the last bitter drop in a chalice full of sorrow. And then I'd do something I would later regret. Now you know why you can't lie to me?
Yes.
Good.
Now the cool part about this game is that you don't need to have played The Witcher 1 and 2 in order to be at least, competent of what's going on with The Witcher 3. The game does a great job as far as getting you up to speed. There's this whole dialogue section in like an interview that Geralt goes through in order to kind of figure out what exactly happened in the previous two games, especially if you don't have a save data for either Witcher 1 or Witcher 2. And it's actually kind of cool because no matter what you choose throughout the entire dialogue sequence, a bunch of different things can happen that actually influence the rest of the game. And before I get into any of that stuff, I do want to talk a little bit about the characters because Geralt of Rivia really is like the heart and the soul and the glue that keeps everything together for the Witcher series, especially in The Witcher 3. And right from the get-go, there is so much to really latch onto in regards to Geralt of Rivia. There's a lot of great character traits about him that are either really relatable or really gravitating, but also very interesting too. He has a lot of character to him. It's kind of redundant to say something like that, but really there's a lot of stuff that you could figure out or learn about Geralt that makes you want to keep playing and actually follow his story. And that's just Geralt himself. I'm not even getting into all the side story and information and crazy stuff that happens to some of the rest of the cast, including Yennefer, Triss, Vesemir, Ciri, Dandelion, all the other characters that you come across throughout the world of The Witcher 3. There is a lot of stuff happening in this game. There is so much to follow, and the crazy part is, all of it is very interesting and makes you want to keep going. There really wasn't one section or one area of the game that I felt like things were really dragging on for a long time. I wasn't bored going through many of the quests that you get to play through or seeing all the different side stories play out and the main plot play out itself. Nothing was really boring because I was just so intrigued with the world and these characters characters and the stuff that was happening to them within this crazy world that was just so vast. It was just very interesting throughout the entire time. I know I keep saying that, but that's the best way to describe it. It's very intriguing, very interesting, very gravitating. It really sucks you in. It really wants you to really explore all the different aspects of this world. And speaking of which, we have to talk about the element of player choice in this game, which has a significant impact on the story that you see play out. No matter what you choose, something is going to happen. There will be a consequence, and that in of itself is very awesome. One thing that most role-playing games here in the West tend to focus on is the idea of choice, giving players a greater sense of control over the world around them and showing the consequences of their decisions. You see a lot of that in Mass Effect, Fallout, Dragon Age, and a few others. The Witcher 3 does the same thing in a surprisingly deep and clever way by making the morality of your choices very ambiguous. In the world of The Witcher 3, there's no real clear cut between good and evil. Right and wrong can be different depending on the perspective. This is where the story of the game and the writing for the various quests you follow shines brightly. Not only can your decisions you make during dialogue scenes matter, but how you complete certain quests you undertake could do so as well, and the consequences are really significant. You might have a problem helping out a character who might be shady in their dealings, but your actions might make things better for a city in the long run or prevent a greater evil from taking form. The reverse of this, however, could be the same thing. You might have the best intentions for doing something, but you might inadvertently cause something else bad to happen to your dismay. What you do isn't necessarily good or bad. The game doesn't explicitly praise or punish you for that. It actually just shows you what happens in the world as an effect of your actions. And this happens with the relationships Geralt can build with other characters as well. So many things can happen and change in the greater narrative depending on who you interact with and how you do so. Yes, there is a choice between love interests like Yennefer and Triss, which makes a big impact on everything, but then you have the stories between Geralt and the many other side characters he meets in the game. Doing side quests for them might help you out in a major event, especially if you're in a good standing with them. And if not, it could also have different consequences for all of you as well, while at the same time still tying into the greater narrative of the game. It's an expertly crafted tree of events that has so many permutations and outcomes based on what you decide to do.
His genitals. We ought to inspect those.
I sincerely doubt they bear any relation to the matter.
We'll see. Pull down his trousers and... shit.
Syphilis, actually. Early stages. No sign of diffusion.
You smell wonderful.
Geralt, we're at a funeral.
You smell wonderful at this funeral. Haven't seen each other in 2 years. I want a solitary cottage by the sea. I want to lock myself inside with you. Stay there for a week.
What would we do there for a week?
Got so many ideas.
The one with the rope you use for trophies. That one seems interesting.
Okay, real talk, I love the different variations for the side stories and the main quests, and all the different outcomes you could get based on what you do during dialogue sections and how you complete certain quests. One of my favorite things to do is to go on YouTube and look up the different permutations of certain quests, certain outcomes, as well as also dialogue choices that you could do in order to see how they change up the main story and like certain plot points, because there is so many things that could happen that you're not going to be able to see everything on your first playthrough. It's absolutely insane just how significant some of these changes can be. You could do certain conversations and get a certain quest line, but if you go back and do that same quest and change up some of your choices there, you might not get that same quest line, or certain things might change up very drastically that totally like spins things off in a totally different branch. It's absolutely nuts, and if anything, it's really interesting. There was a few instances that I could remember that a certain quest that you played through involving a specific character that could actually really significantly impact the story later on. Depending on how you go about those conversations and how you actually complete certain stuff with them, you might actually get into a fight with them that could actually kill that person and they won't show up for the rest of the game. But if you decide to actually work with them or kind of lead the conversation in a different way, you not only get a entirely different quest line, but they actually show up later on in the game and help you out in a significant way. That is absolutely insane, because had I actually killed that person, I would have never gotten any of this other stuff, or at least seen some of the different changes that happen within the world if that character was still around. This is something that all RPG players really love, especially when our choices in the dialogue and certain aspects of the story are supposed to have some sort of big significant impact. The Witcher 3 does this in a masterful way. Like, there is so many decisions that you might not even be aware of that could have some sort of outcome or some sort of significant effect on something later on. Even if it's something as minor as like different types of dialogue or certain little pieces of information you could gather in different parts of the world, you might not get that stuff, or you might even get more depending on what you do, and that is absolutely awesome. But if we can move away from The Witcher 3's narrative and focus a little bit more on gameplay, there is a lot of stuff to chew on because there are so many different things that come into play that make this game a joy to play through. When I first started playing The Witcher 3, immediately the controls and the vast environment stood out to me. It just felt so good to control Geralt and move around, especially in a world that was so open and detailed. Everything from the combat, the RPG customization, the quest, and anything else just fell right into place, and felt right as I played for many hours. The combat is what I believe many people remember the most in the gameplay for The Witcher 3. Playing as Geralt gives you access to different weapons and magical signs, which are The Witcher's version of special abilities. You can shoot fire, push enemies away, cast shields on yourself, and even use a mind trick on enemies to assist you in battle. Fighting monsters or other humans feels streamlined, which is great for any game that throws groups of enemies at you. But don't get it twisted, you need to be clever in some fights when you're at a disadvantage. Dodging and attacking are easily interchangeable and sometimes necessary to come out the victor. Just because Geralt is a Witcher doesn't mean he's invincible and will slay monsters with ease. The bigger fights against griffins, wyverns, and other mutated monsters can be challenging, requiring you to dodge and use signs often. Combat gets even deeper when you take into account the various kinds of weapons you have at your disposal. This includes all the secondary items you can synthesize and use in combat, as well as the different weaknesses and vulnerabilities you can exploit against enemies. The combat could be mindless button mashing at times, but not always. You might be able to chop down a gang of bandits with a few swings of your sword, but don't expect to do the same thing for the likes of a Spectre or an Elemental Golem. The game throws more than a few curveballs at you if you aren't paying attention, so you will die if you get careless. Mind you, this is all complementary to the leveling system that allows you to build up Geralt in a number of ways. Whether you're prioritizing your skills with a sword or utilizing the power of your signs very well, you have a lot of room to make Geralt into a powerful Witcher. Unfortunately, some areas of the skill tree you have are a little bit more appealing than others, especially when the rewards for some feel very situational and specific. But that doesn't mean the option isn't there for you to try something new, as well as the means to start over and mix things up a bit. There's a lot of different tools for Geralt, but ultimately, you choose how to use them in your own way. Something I don't want to forget to mention is that Geralt can use his Witcher sense to see important objects or spot things that might help him out during quest. Think of it like the detective mode from the Batman Arkham series of games, because it works in the exact same way. It looks very cool, it can be very useful for looking for clues about monsters or other objects that you can interact with. It's also very helpful in spotting places where you could gather items, especially in dark areas or spots with a lot of foliage. Now this is where things start to get a little bit messed up for me, mainly because of the bugs and glitches that pop up from time to time. Every once in a while you'll notice certain objects or characters get stuck in other objects, or they'll get stuck in the ground, or even in some of the cutscenes there'll be certain different foliage and debris that's blocking the camera, so it looks really goofy and really messed up. Even though these aren't like game-breaking bugs or anything that truly messes up the entire experience, they are still very noticeable. There can also be certain times where Geralt is moving around and trying to traverse certain landscapes like a hilltop or a mountainside, and as he's going up, sometimes he'll slide down because you just can't go up certain sections of the hilltop or the area, and he'll fall right off a cliff and you'll end up dying and have to reload a save. That could get very annoying. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen in certain areas of the map where there's a lot of hillsides and a lot of certain sections where you have to kind of ascend rather than descend or just go straight along all these different plains and stuff. One of the other good things I should mention is that the signs that you have access to, the different Witcher powers that you're able to use and the magical abilities, those are pretty cool, but some of them have the ability to affect certain dialogue sections and influence the ability to get certain quests. Specifically the Axis sign, which is very key to opening up new dialogue branches and new options that you could use during conversations with certain characters. I thought that was actually pretty cool. My only disappointment with this is that I wish some of the other powers that you had access to were able to do something similar, not just the Jedi mind trick that Geralt has. It would have been cool having the Ignis sign or the Quinn sign or any of the other stuff come into play in certain ways, or at least have some sort of significance in the dialogue to open up other quest branches, or do certain things during a quest that might allow you to do other options or open up certain things, or maybe even close them off. It feels like only the Axis sign is really coming into play with this type of stuff, but again, not knowing everything about the Witcher universe, that might not be something that's realistic, but it would have been cool to see something like that, so that way I'm not just powering up the Axis galaxy sign, I could actually spread out my skill points amongst everything else. One more thing I should mention also is that you do get the ability to play as Ciri in certain flashbacks throughout the entire story. It would have been cool to actually play as Ciri on the fly, or at least have the option to do so once you finish the game. It would have been cool to kind of roam around the environment as Ciri, but even though narratively I know it doesn't make sense, again, this is a game and it would have been cool to have that extra option, but even so, her sections when you're playing as her and you have the different battles you have to deal with the Wild Hunt, those are actually really cool. Those are really fun, and they're very significant to different portions of the story. There's a lot of emotional weight behind them and a lot of urgency whenever they happen. Now, of course, besides the battles, there is a significant portion of this game when you're exploring all of your surroundings and just going from place to place on the continent, and you get to see a lot of different stuff, but you also get to do a lot of cool things as well. Everything I've mentioned thus far is only part of the gameplay, because outside of all of that is the amazing exploration within The Witcher 3. The map is huge, and I mean it's probably a lot more larger than most of the role-playing games you could think of. Yeah, bigger than some of these. There, I said it. There's a total of 6 regions you could visit and explore. These include the White Orchard, Vizima, Velen, Novigrad, Skellig, and KAER Valley. Either on foot or via horseback, you could traverse open fields and dense forests with an incredible amount of detail, which may or may not hide a few secrets. Some of the quests require you to go out and explore, with rewards being more than just experience and coin. The optional treasure hunts you could do have a real strong influence from other series like The Legend of Zelda and even Tomb Raider. It makes the world you're in feel so much more realized and constantly rewarding you in more ways than one. There's also spur-of-the-moment optional side quests you could pick up from various citizens all over the continent. These give you different kinds of rewards, but you'll have to watch out for them on your map as you walk around. They won't appear in your quest log until you discover them. Finishing side quests won't always lead to significant payoffs, however, but if you're a completionist, then you'll have plenty of stuff to do throughout your time within The Witcher 3. Understandably, this could get overwhelming for some players, but if you take your time and pace yourself through each activity as you go, it'll be a lot of fun and constantly intriguing.
Relax, I'll help you. Small businesses are the foundation of a healthy economy, and so on and so on.
Thank you, Master Witcher. I don't know if this will be of use, but most recently the thief leapt over that wall and ran into a passageway. It was the last I saw of him and a few of my wares.
Now, I mentioned all these different things, which in of itself is already plenty to do in The Witcher 3, and I didn't even get into Gwent, which got spun off into its own game across various different platforms. Personally, for me, I'm not really a big Gwent guy, but I definitely do respect it because I kind of look at it in the same way that I do Triple Triad for Final Fantasy VIII, where there's a bunch of stuff you could do, there's a ton of people to play the game with, as well as also different items and important stuff that you could get from that game, but there's still already so much to do elsewhere within The Witcher 3 that I never really dived into too much with Gwent. It just feels like a side story, a mini game that if you want to put a lot of time into it, you could get something out of it, but you don't necessarily have to. But outside of all that, there is just so many great things to do in this game. Again, all the treasure hunts, all the Witcher contracts, the side quests for certain characters, the on-the-fly quests, Gwent, then there's the DLC, which is Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. There's so many things to do in this game. Like, it's already a meaty game as is, but then you get even more on top of that. Like, you get the meat, you get the main course, you get all the side stuff, you get dessert, you get the after dessert. Like, there's just so many things about this game, and the best part is that it's all really freaking good.
How about that? It does smell of lilac and gooseberries.
If I want to be a little bit nitpicky here, I would have loved to see another DLC starring Ciri and actually put a little bit more focus on her and give me some more time to play as her within the continent. I actually think that would have been really cool. Granted, I do understand that maybe CD Projekt Red could do a whole nother game starring and putting focus on Ciri. That would actually be kind of cool, and maybe they're doing that right now. But even so, wishful thinking, I would have loved to see an extra DLC besides the ones we already got in an already meaty game. Imagine that. We already have a bunch of stuff to do and a bunch of stuff to chew on, but I want some more, which technically is actually a good problem. So even though I think it's probably obvious at this point, can I recommend that you guys check out The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt? Absolutely, hell yes, you guys need to play this game. This game is awesome. It has so much to offer, especially if you're a role-playing fan. There is just a lot of things to do and a lot of stuff to really experience and immerse yourself within The Witcher 3. It's just that good too. Even if you're not big into role-playing games or you're more of a JRPG person rather than a Western RPG person, you still need to play this game. I feel like there's there's just so much going on with it, so much that it's offering, and so much that is doing very well, that anybody that plays this, that really just sits down and spends time with it, is going to have a great time. It's going to have an excellent experience. There's just, again, so much good stuff about The Witcher 3 that everybody at some point needs to play it whenever they can. CD Projekt Red really outdid themselves. They put a lot of effort and time and put a real emphasis of quality into this experience. And I feel like as far as RPGs are concerned, this is probably one of the best that I've ever played. It's really that good, people.
To transform into a werewolf. It's a dog's life, huh?
Well, there's not a youth out there who doesn't have a wolf in his belly.
Then the curse confined him to this garden? Couldn't really cut his wolf loose.
No question he was top dog here.
Just wolfing things down, or not.
Geralt, that's enough.
Fine. Still had a few good ones at the tip of my tongue.
I'm sure you did. We'll say you won.
Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts about The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I had a fantastic time. I really enjoyed it. Again, go play this game. You can pick it up for real cheap right now, especially the complete edition of this game that has the DLC. Like, go get this game, whether it's on PS4, Xbox One, PC. I know PC is the best version, but still, get this game. It's that good. And it's crazy too because I started playing this game right before the Netflix series came out, and after watching that, it made me enjoy everything that I was playing even more so. There was just, again, so much to do, so much to enjoy, so much to take in, so much to get excited about even now. Again, because with my jacket, Cyberpunk 2077, you know, CD Projekt Red's doing this, and they're probably going to put some of the stuff they did in this game into this game. I'm hyped up. I cannot wait. But as always, that's just my opinion about The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Let me know what you guys think about this game down below in the comments section. Tell me, do you guys enjoy The Witcher 3? Have you never played it before? Are you watching the Netflix series that's already out? I mean, what about The Witcher 3 you think is good or bad or crazy? Or what else do you want to see with the series? Do we want another game? Do you want another game starring Ciri? Put all that stuff and all your thoughts about it down below in the comments section. Thanks for watching this video, everyone. Go ahead and click the boxes on the side to see more videos and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to go visit my Patreon page for exclusive gaming content that I know you'll really love. Hope you have a chill day. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.